We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. If you like our content, share the video with your family and your friends. If you want to donate to this College Football Rebel Outpost channel, show your support through a donation. Hit the $ where you make a comment, and I will get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody, one and all, even the evil badger, Jeff Olson, who's in the chat room. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room, with your phone calls later in the show. Thank God. Thank God I have come back. Because holy smokes, I leave, me and the little general, we go on to the island of paradise. And man, I tell you, I think people have lost their ever-loving minds on what is going on in college football. We're going to cover some of the stories. I'm not going to go through everything that I've missed while I have been gone, because then we do a 12-hour show. Nobody wants to listen to the fat guy from Minnesota for 12 hours, much less look at the fat guy from Minnesota for 12 hours. So we're going to do the best we can. We're going to play some catch up here. Today, on August 6th, what is that? 18 days. 18 days before Georgia Tech, the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech versus the Florida State Seminoles in Dublin, Ireland. We're going to be doing a watch party. We're definitely going to be doing a watch party on that August 24th. We are 18 days away. Today, 18 days away, we are going to release college football's peek around the corner top 25. And of course, you know what that means, right? You guys know what that means. That means Greg the Gold. That's it. Greg the Gold. I'm gonna give it to you. Top 25. Remember, 2024, there is no more Greg the Cooler. He's gone, and he's never coming back. He is never coming back. So we're gonna do that here in our monologue for August 6th. We're gonna go through a couple news stories, and then I am going to explain once again the lay of the land when it comes to Florida State, Clemson, the ACC, and the chatter behind the curtain. And let me start off by saying this. There is none, zero, zilch, nada. There is no misinformation campaign going on by the conferences, by Sankey, by Petiti, by Fox, by ESPN, by Greg, the fat guy from Minnesota, by the reporters. There is no misinformation campaign going on. I know that would be juicy. I know that would be a juicy story. And if it was out there, I'd be covering it in very dramatic ways. But there is no misinformation campaign going on. In fact, the facts were laid out to you in June by the fat guy from Minnesota and from national reporters in July. And I'm going to give, look, on this show, you can disagree with the host. You can put it in the chat. You can give me a call and let me have it. You can definitely disagree with college football's peek around the corner. If we cannot disagree, then why are we even here? This is a college football YouTube channel. Of course we're going to disagree. That's part of the fun of it. However, I also reserve the right. To defend the integrity of the show. No, I am not part of some misinformation campaign. I did not get hoodwinked into some campaign. On June 15th, we had a live show, the Holy Smokes Theater update, where we said Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey have walked out of the prime time show, the ACC drama. We let everybody know that Clemson and Florida State were not the top targets. We talked about it for week after week after week after week, and we told you straight out this was the chatter behind the curtain. And then suddenly, the chatter behind the curtain comes out in different waves, which we also told you was going to happen. We were not, because we came out first and said, look, we have to flip-flop here because it's our job, it's my job to give you the most accurate, current peek around the corner in college football. We did that. But we did not do that. We did not achieve that because we're part of some grand conspiracy. But that's not what I'm even going to talk about, because that is, we've been through that battle. Big 12 poaching the Pac-12. The USC, everything that I've ever done, I've been accused of being part of a misinformation campaign. But that's not what I'm even going to talk about today. That's not what I mean when I say there is no misinformation campaign. I'm not even talking about the reporters necessarily or myself. I'm talking about the conferences themselves. The Big Ten, the SEC. The sources are not gathering up and coordinating and saying, oh, we think about this school, think about this school, and spread it to all the reporters in some coordinated misinformation campaign. The sources that are talking, and there are many of them, and they cast a wide net, and they're all singing from the same songbook, they are in no fear of litigation. Sources can talk to certain people, including myself, knowing that we're not going to give it up. We're not going to give up the whole story. We're going to just go as far as we need to put out an accurate story. Sources did not go and say, okay, we're all gonna give national reporters this information. We're gonna say to these national reporters, okay, let's say this is the SEC sources. Greg Sankey's got them all in a room. Okay, you're all gonna go out there and you're gonna say, you're gonna tell Pete Thamel, Dennis Dodd, Brett McMurphy, Ross Dellinger, you're going to tell them all, Heather Dinich, Nicole Auerbach, the fat guy from Minnesota, you're going to tell them all, every single one of them. You're going to say, you know what? And go ahead and tell Paul Feinbaum, although, whatever. Go tell them that, yeah, you know what? If North Carolina becomes available, we're going to be interested in them. They're our number one targets. And then go out and tell everybody that Florida State isn't the number one target for the SEC. Okay, go ahead. Leave the room. Go ahead. You've got your marching orders. That's not what's going on. Why would sources be not afraid of litigation against the SEC by saying to reporters that the SEC is interested in North Carolina, but then suddenly they're afraid of possible litigation when they say Florida State is not our number one target. See, there's no logic to that argument that there is a misinformation campaign. I'm going to go more into it at the second half of this monologue. I'm going to go through it all once again, and I'm going to add some more parts to it. But, you know, and I said this during the time. I'm not going to try to go on a rant, but during the Pac-12 drama that was going on, and especially around the hot bubble of action, which we describe, something big was happening between April 28th and May 17th. We knew what it was, but I could not tell you. And then on May 8th, we did a live show, and I said, the Pac-12 just got a shot to the solar plexus, and they're hanging by a thread. On May 8th, go back, May 8th, 2023, watch the live show. I started the show by saying, holy smokes, the Pac-12 just got a shot to the solar plexus. Because we knew on May 7th, there was a first party meeting in Chicago. We knew it at the time. I couldn't say a meeting in Chicago. Couldn't burn our sources. Had to let the story play out. There's no way I was going to jump in front of that May 7th meeting. That's not how you do this stuff. So, but anyways, we had peek around the corner, get raked over the coals over and over and over again. And then I told people there was a big whale donor meeting west of Colorado with the Colorado Buffalo donors, and it ended up being in Newport, California. And then there was a small minnow booster meeting in May 31st, and that happened in Boulder, Colorado. All this stuff was not misinformation. It was actual facts on the ground. And during all this time, as we were breaking the news, I said, the Pac-12 schools, they want to stay together. They do. They want to stay together. But I don't care how many charts you put up. I don't care how many spreadsheets you put out there. I don't care about any of those statistics. What was driving that story, what drove Colorado to that meeting in Chicago on May 7th was the Pac-12 was getting diddly squat when it came to any potential offers for their media package. They were getting nothing. And every time the chatter behind the curtain put that out there, oh, they're lying to you. They're part of the Endeavor plot. Oh, actually, what was going on is those reporters weren't even putting their total foot to the gas pedal. They could have said more. It could have been more negative, not less. So, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, historically, the Pac-12 schools would want to stay together. That's not a shot against Big 12 schools. If you want to take it as a shot, go ahead. I'm just telling you, historically, they wanted to stay together. Peer schools want to play together. They do. I was being honest. I was also being honest that they're going to get poached. Remember, we had it since February 24, 2023 to July 27, 2023. We had to favor the odds that the Big 12 was going to be able to poach the Pac-12, and they did so. Even against historic norms, even against the spreadsheets, even against those beautiful charts that was made from a guy from Wofford College who absolutely had no idea what was truly happening. Again, it's happening today. On another story, in another part of the country. I get it. I have used, not good looking charts, but I've used statistics and spreadsheets, and I understand. We did an endowment list. We did research. I tried to explain why a Clemson and Florida State probably wouldn't be a viable blend going to the Big Ten. But ultimately, what's even way more important than all those spreadsheets and charts and in historical norms, what's even more important than that is what is actually happening on the ground. Talking to real people. That's what we do here at Peek Around the Corner. So when we say, when in March of 2021, I put out a series of tweets. Go ahead, look it up. Do an advanced search at Plug Empire. 2021, I put up a series of USC, UCLA tweets talking to the Big Ten. But I also said at the time, Big Ten eventually they weren't quite ready. They weren't ready. And then on March 31st, 2022, we put out the tweet saying USC called the Big Ten, big breaking news. We covered it for 3 months. It's going to happen. And then it happened. During those 3 months, the name Greg Pflugar was turned into a joke because people thought I was just making it up, pulling it out of thin air. There's no way the Big Ten is going to take USC. They've always taken a school from a connecting state, yada, yada, yada. They're not going to poach from their sister conference. That is something that I used to believe. But again, what is important is what's happening on the ground. So, it does mean no good here at Peek Around the Corner. It does mean no good to be a part of a misinformation campaign. What does that do for me? I have a track record of years and years and years, and I'm going to act like a schmuck here for 1 minute. I will put my track record up again. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. We got that track record. We got that track record because we don't believe in this misinformation campaign. We're definitely not a part of it, and we are always curious. In other words, if you take over the last 3 or 4 years, it would have been very hard to predict what happened. I'm giving you a warning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get back to this at the back end of this monologue. I'm just setting the table right now. Be very, 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 very careful when you say things when you hear people say, it's never going to happen. If that would have happened, it would have happened before. Never going to happen. it doesn't line up with the spreadsheets, with historic norms, it's not going to happen. I'll say this. Florida State and Clemson are not only working on the court cases, which by the way, we have an update. We do have an update that we're going to get to. They are working on their relationships with their potential options. Florida State is not going to quit on when they're able to get out of the ACC. They're not going to quit on their dream, on their mission to get to a Power 2 conference. They're not going to quit. Clemson's not going to quit. There's a few other ACC schools, once they get out, they're not going to quit. But as serious as I was when I said USC called the big... Now listen to this. And then we're going to go back at it at the end of the monologue. As serious as I was when I said USC called the Big Ten, spring of 2022, as serious as I was about the hot bubble of action, about the Big 12 meeting the Pac-12 in first party talks, as serious as I was when I said Oregon and Washington, you're going to be Big Ten members. Don't listen to the idiots out there. Don't listen to genetics. You're going to be a Big Ten member 5 months from now or 5 years from now. If certain things happen, and they all happened, then you're going to be in the conference 5 months from now. Every time I've broken a story or I've led you straight into a story, as serious as I was about all those stories, I'm as serious to you right now when I say the following. Florida State and Clemson are working to get into a Power 2 conference. They're also working on the Big 12 option. Now, the Florida State money perch, he believes that's going to happen. He believes Florida State's going to end up in the Big 12 for at least a few years. Peek around the corner, we're not going to go that far. Because we've also know that Florida State's doing some things behind the curtain that we're not able to unveil yet, although you got some of it through the last Board of Trustees meeting at Florida State. The Big 12 is a serious option. It's not part of the misinformation campaign because Florida State and Clemson are actually working on that option. They are. So if they're working on it as an option, yeah, it is serious. Just, and I'm going to end this right now. And then we'll get back. We're gonna get back to it. I do have to say this. There is one gigantic problem, and I'm going to sound like a schmuck here. There's one big, huge problem that people are having reporting on this story. This story that we're in, where Clemson and Florida State are suing the ACC and they've sued back and everything. For Florida State and Clemson, they're trying to get into the Big Ten and the SEC. There is some major obstacles in the way. They're working on it. That's the truth. For Florida State and Clemson, the most important part of this battle with the ACC is not the when, it's the how. They care about the how. They don't care about the when. I thought months ago that Florida State and Clemson thought about the when. But boy, with all that information, doors opened up. We reported to you. Petiti and Sankey left the Holy Smokes Theater. They don't even want to do anything this year. It's not about the when. It's not about August 15th. It isn't. That date is meaningless. It means nothing. It's not about the when. It's about how it happens. Florida State and Clemson wants to land the killer shot. They want the ACC to implode. I was wrong. Everybody was wrong. But I'll take the L for everybody. It's not the when, it's the how. The more the implosion of the ACC, that's what Florida State wants. That's what Clemson wants. They want a victory not for them, just for themselves, but for other schools to follow after them. It's the how, baby. It's the how. Everybody's so... And again, we'll get to the ESPN, the option. We'll get to that. People are not going to like what I got to say about that. And you can disagree. You can say, Greg, you're wrong. I probably advise you not to go down the misinformation angle of it, because then I'm going to fire back, because this is not part of the misinformation campaign. There is no misinformation campaign. Sources... Sources, how do I put this? Do sources, are they biased? Yes. Do they put out information that at times doesn't happen? It's not quite accurate? Yes. Does one source have the whole picture? No. Sources can be inaccurate. But one of the motivations that sources have for giving information is sometimes it's a quid pro quo. But oftentimes sources, they want their own credibility. Most sources, the good ones, the ones that you cultivate over years of doing this, they're not playing games. They're not doing a misinformation campaign. These conferences, I can't. Yeah, I can. Here at Peek Around the Corner, when we, on June 15th, when we gave that update on the Holy Smokes Theater, when we had those schools, when we had Petiti and Sankey leave the Holy Smokes Theater, we knew where that information was coming from, specifically in the Big Ten. And I've mentioned this before. Specifically. And there is no way that there is a misinformation campaign going on. It's the actual lay of the land. And Florida State knows it. And Clemson knows it. No doors have been closed. But they're going to have to get over some hurdles, some relationship hurdles in the SEC and the Big Ten. They're going to have to make themselves look like a fit. And they're going to have time to work on it. And they're working on it. They know they're not an automatic in to the Power 2. Florida State and Clemson knows that the bigger the ACC implosion, the better off they are. And that's what they're working on. They're working on the how, not the when. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. I'm not going to do a roll call because I'd miss pretty much everybody. But I do appreciate you all coming on in. Let's get to some stories. That was a long setup of a monologue, but we're going to get back into it because my DMs, my direct messages, when me and Maria, and thank you to my wife for getting us to Hawaii, for all the time she went back and forth to Mexico. She was able to afford all those points you get and everything. So for our 22nd year anniversary, Maria Hernandez Garcia was able to afford us to go to Hawaii. Thank you so very much. We just got in early this morning. I've had no sleep for a couple days, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But during the time that I was gone in Hawaii, my DMs filled up. I couldn't answer all, and boy, let's just say it's good to be back because there's still a lot of misunderstanding what's going on. Lots of misunderstanding what's going on. But the important thing is, if you are a Clemson Tiger fan, if you are a Florida State Seminole fan, your school knows what's going on. They know what's going on. They've been given enough information. Third-party talks. They've been given enough information. They know what's going on. None of them are pushing back on the reporting of Pete Thamel, of Dennis Dodd, of Brett McMurphy, of Jason Shear. None of them have said squat, and they won't say anything. They know where they sit. They know they are big brand, valuable brands, and they want a bigger ACC implosion. Florida State and Clemson don't want to be the only two schools that can get out of the ACC. They don't want that because if that happens, then that Big 12 option becomes real. It's not when, it's about the how. November 9th, 2024, Rutgers 24, Minnesota 10, Greek Rifle, 2 touchdowns. Athen Kaliakmanis, the Greek Rifle. Thank you for the super chat, Exodus Talks. Appreciate it. $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your generosity. I do appreciate it. Okay, let's get to some of the stories here. First of all, this was put out earlier, a couple weeks ago. First head coach fired. Billy Napier leads the list. This is Bet Online. Billy Napier is the favorite. Sam Pittman, Arkansas. Mario Cristobal. I got something to say about Miami here. I got something to say about the Hurricanes when we get to that part of the monologue. We're going to be doing a top 25. We're going to quickly go through that. So Ryan Day is 12-1 odds. In other words, if the Buckeyes do not win the national championship, holy smokes. If they don't win the Big Ten championship, holy smokes. Dave Aranda is up there. Scott Scatterfield in his second year at Cincinnati. Neil Brown, 14-1. Back up on that list, even though the Mountaineers turned it around last year. Mike Loxley, Dabble Sweeney, Lincoln Riley. Holy smokes. Deion Sanders. We're not going to be covering the story today, but there's some reports coming out of Colorado. Looks like they might have some issues going on at Colorado. We'll see what happens there. Injuries at camp. Notre Dame and Nebraska both lose their starting left tackles during the first week of camp. Nebraska's left tackle, I just call him Teddy P. I don't know how many times he's been injured. This torn ACL in Monday's practice was the opposite knee that suffered the ACL tear a couple years ago. I don't know. I've got Nebraska going 8-4 this year. I've got Nebraska going to a bowl game. That offensive line scares me. Now Corcoran, they're going to move him to the left tackle. We saw what he did a couple years ago. It wasn't good. That true freshman, Dylan Raiola, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change my predictions. Nebraska 8-4, big improvement this year, but it's that offensive line, and they just lost their talented left tackle once again. And what about Notre Dame? What about Notre Dame? That first game of the season, Nick Scorton, the transfer from Purdue, is going to be lining up over the left tackle. And Notre Dame lost their starting left tackle. And now they don't know, they've got a big Congo line. They got a bunch of guys. They don't know who's going to fill in. Texas A&M, College Station, at home, prime time. I think it's prime time. It don't matter. Nick Scorton is going to line, and he's going to create so much havoc. In fact, I think this week, probably tomorrow, I might be doing my official first Greg the Gold against the spread pick selection, and I'm going to be taking the Aggies. We'll wait till tomorrow on that. Right now, they're -1. They probably jumped to -2, -3 after the news that Notre Dame lost their starting left tackle. Holy smokes. So injuries are already starting to take effect. Yep, I do hate to see injuries, Richard L. No question about it. This is an update by Matt Baker today, August 6, 2024. A South Carolina judge has affirmed his bench ruling from last month, allowing Clemson's case against the ACC to proceed in his state, Pickens County. Judge Perry H. Gravely wrote in an order filed Tuesday, today, that the ACC has enough ties to South Carolina to be sued there. He also wrote in part that Clemson's case against the conference in South Carolina and the ACC's case against Clemson in North Carolina are not substantially identical. The judge also wrote that South Carolina has a strong interest in adjudicating this dispute. A dispute over alleged damages to the property rights of a public body of the state of South Carolina, serving thousands of South Carolina residents each year. Gravely, however, did deny Clemson's request for a declaratory judgment that has its sovereign immunity that would shield it from being sued in North Carolina. And what about this story? Cameron B. just brought it up in the chat room. Harbaugh got out of Michigan because he knew bleep was going to go sideways. Michigan with the asterisk? Is that unfair? I believe here at Peek Around the Corner, we reported it at the time, and I got a lot of heat from Michigan fans. Holy smokes. I had more heat from Michigan fans than I do from Clemson and Florida State fans right now. I believe that Tony Petitti acted correctly. I was one of the very few. I don't think he acted too cold. I don't think he acted too hot. I think Tony Petitti acted just right. I don't think he could have done more than what he did in that time period. And I don't think he could afford to do less than what he did. If Tony Petitti would not have acted at all on Michigan, the blowback would be incredible right now for Tony Petitti, personally. Is Michigan the national champions? Yes. Are they going to have to vacate the national championship? No. Were they the best team in the country? Yes. Peek Around the Corner is going to consider the Michigan Wolverines the national champions of 2024. That's going to upset at least half of you out there in PATC land. But on the other hand, Michigan did cheat. And no, not everybody cheats. Not what they did. Connor Stallions should be... Connor Stallions, I'm not even going to watch that Netflix special. I saw a little trailer of it and I said, the guy's a loser, in my opinion. The guy's a cheat. He loved everything that came with him when he cheated. He loved all of it. He loved all of it. He loved Michigan winning. He loved that he was leaned on so much by the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. He loved it. He got all the adulations from it. The personal relationships, the connections, the raise, the money that he got. All of it. So now when the heat came, when he got caught, he clammed up, he shut up, he did not help, he acted like a chump. Connor Stallions acted like a chump. He did not take the L. He's still not taking accountability. He's still saying stuff like, well, everybody does it. And then Jim Harbaugh. What can you say? You won your national championship. You got out of town. But then you went up on stage as a Chargers head coach, and again, you couldn't take the L. You couldn't take the L. You didn't know anything was going on? That's an L in itself. If you're honestly going to stand up there, Jim Harbaugh, and say you didn't know about it, you didn't authorize it, you didn't know what was going on around you, that's an L. That's you being incompetent. Are you telling me that you're standing there and you see this Connor Stallions running up to the offensive coordinator, running up to the defensive coordinator, saying stuff in the ears, and then the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator yell stuff out to their players, and you, Jim Harbaugh, you had no idea what was going on? None. Whatever. I'm glad you're out of college football. I'm glad you're out of college football. You're a hell of a coach. I'm sure you're a great guy with your friends and family, and you're a great Michigan man. But you know, you are a cheat who couldn't even take an inch of accountability. So that's what I got to say about that. Go Black 45. Thank you so much for becoming an early P Cloak and Dagger member once again. And you gave out a gift membership to Kerry Gold Knowles, Mr. Seminole. Kerry Gold Knowles, please say thank you to Go Black 45. Both of you are officially knighted once again, Cloak and Dagger. Now, having said all of that, Michigan, great football program, national champions. I don't think it should be vacated. Great fan base. But I called it like I saw it at the time that it happened. And remember we did the Connor Stallions, I wear my sunglasses at night, when we did that episode with him at the sidelines of Central Michigan. What are you doing? What are you doing going on another sideline of a team with sunglasses that can video cam? You're a cheat. You're a punk, Connor Stallions. You're an absolute punk. That's all I got to say about that. Okay. First, and again, I do have to take an L. I'm going to take an L here. It's all about accountability. The SEC is reportedly moving to adopt mandatory injury reports for this fall. So the SEC is going to do what the Big Ten did last year and is doing again this year. They're going to have a mandatory injury report for this fall. In the Big Ten, that report has to come out 90 minutes before kickoff time. 90 minutes before kickoff time. Now, what I'm taking the L on here at Peek Around the Corner, what I'm taking the L on is I thought, definitely believed by August of 2024, the Big Ten and the SEC and the Big 12 would have signed some sort of deal with a sports book company, conglomerate, in regards to real-time data going from their conference games to the sports book. There was public reports on it that this was going to happen. We were told by sources this was going to happen. By 2024, this was going to happen. And it was going to bring in millions of dollars to these conferences. Well, guess what? It is August 6th, and it hasn't happened. So, Peek Around the Corner, we're going to have to take the L on that. I don't know why it hasn't happened. I don't know if these conference commissioners have shied away from having to deal with a Pacific conglomeration of sports books out there. I don't know if like the SEC doesn't want DraftKings to be the official sponsor of SEC. Maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they pulled away from it. We never heard that they pulled away from it. So, anyway, so we're going to take the L on that one. We just took an L on that. We took a bigger L on that story than what Jim Harbaugh did for Michigan. Okay, let's get back to the monologue here. Crab Cakes and Football, Feisty Greg is back. Yes, I am feisty. I'm ready to go. We got college football coming up here. We had a Minnesota Golden Gophers had a public practice out in public. You could have went to the Huntington Bank Stadium football. I would have been there, but I was in Hawaii with my wife. But got a lot of reports. And Max Brosmere did pretty good. The quarterback, the best FCS quarterback last year, transferred to Minnesota this year. All report says he was really, 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 really good. So he's not going to be a guy who's going to throw that 40-yard pass from hash mark to the opposite hash mark. He's not going to be pushing the ball down the field too much. But he's a more athletic Tanner Morgan. Real smart guy. Real successful at the FCS level, just like Cameron Ward was. He was a finalist for the Walter Payton. That's the Heisman Trophy winner for FCS level. He was a finalist. Best quarterback in the country. Now he's moved up. And if he is the guy that Minnesota thinks he is, well, we're all going to find out on August 29th, that Thursday night, North Carolina, Minnesota, we're going to be doing a watch party. If Max Brosmere is the guy that Minnesota thinks he is today, with that running game, with that offensive line and defensive line, Minnesota's going to cause some problems. They're going to cause some problems. Now, they do have a back seven weakness on defense. Special teams coverage weaknesses. They've got a lot of weaknesses. But if the quarterback, if he's the guy they think he is, well, we shall see. All I know is I think the pig is staying home and the axe is coming home. In Michigan, you better squeeze on to that little brown jug as tight as you possibly can.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Minnesota could win 3 games this year. It's going to be more than that, my village idiot. It's going to be much more than that. Okay, now let's get back to the monologue that we started with the show. You know what? Let's not. I got to do my top 25 here. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. We got to do this. There's only 18 more days. 18 more days till the season starts. So I got to put it out. PATC Chalk Talk 2024 preseason top 25. You saw the coaches poll. Coaches poll means nothing. Nothing compared to the PATC Chalk Talk. This is where it counts. Okay. Number 25. This is our PATC preseason top 25. Iowa State Cyclones Remember, I've got them eventually finishing in third place in the Big 12. But I don't have them ahead of Arizona at the beginning of the year. Right? This is my current. This is not where I think things are going to end up. I already did my playoffs. I already did all that. You can go back to our live shows. And I've got it all saved. So I'll put it up during the season. This is where I think it should be at the start of this year. Not where they're going to end up. Preseason top 25. Iowa State 25. I think they have enough juice. I think they're a good team. They should be number 25. Iowa 24. Arizona 23. Texas A&M 22. And I got to tell you, the Aggies are going to beat Notre Dame. They're going to beat Notre Dame game 1. So they're going to move up in the rankings. Notre Dame suffered the injury they could not afford this week in spring camp, losing their starting left tackle. Nick Scorton is going to crush the Fighting Irish in College Station. Number 21, USC. Now, I'm not going to have USC finish number 21. I don't think they're going to be that high. They might be out of the top 25 by the end of the season. I got them coming in 6th place in the Big Ten. But at the beginning of the season, I think it's justified that you can have the Trojans at 21. Number 20, North Carolina State. Now, obviously, I have North Carolina State winning the ACC, going to the playoffs, getting a first round bye. But at the beginning of the season, the Wolfpack, number 20, I think it's justified. I think it's justified. Kansas at number 19. Now, this is where I'm going to get yelled at by the Hurricane fans. I've got Miami 18. What were they in the coaches poll? Let me know in the comments section. I was on vacation. I do not remember where Miami was. But I'm sure of most voters had Miami higher than 18. I can't do it. But listen to me. When the Hurricanes mop up on the Gators in week 1, I could have Miami as high as number 8. I could easily bump them up 10 spots. So this, again, like everybody, is a temporary placeholder. Miami at 18, if they get the job done against the Gators, Miami's going to skyrocket. In my poll, number 17, Clemson. Of course, they start the season against the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 16, Oklahoma. Is that too high for Oklahoma? Number 15, the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, they're going to be playing North Carolina State. Neutral field. Charlotte, North Carolina. The Volunteers versus the Wolfpack. Kansas State, number 14. The Wildcats, I've got them winning the Big 12. Eventually, I've got them winning the Big 12. I got them having a first round bye in the playoffs. But I don't have them ahead of Utah at the beginning of the season. You understand the difference? I can't quite get Kansas State ahead of Utah. I believe Utah deserves that spot in front of Kansas State. LSU number 12. Again, LSU Tigers. They're the one team that's probably I'm in most danger of going from Greg the Gold to Greg the Cooler because of LSU. We'll see what happens. Number 11, Missouri Tigers. Again, I have Missouri missing the playoffs by that much. But at the beginning of the season, I have them at number 11. Number 10, Florida State. The Seminoles, again, start the season against Georgia Tech, rambling wreck. Michigan, number 9. Penn State, number 8. Notre Dame, who I believe is going to lose to number 22, Texas A&M. Texas A&M and Notre Dame are going to do-si-do after that first week. Notre Dame losing a starting left tackle. That is going to hurt. Alabama, number 6. And the top 5. College footballs peek around the corner. Preseason top 25. Ole Miss, number 5. Texas, number 4. Oregon Ducks, number 3. The Buckeyes, Ohio State, number 2. And my Georgia Bulldogs, who I've got winning the national championship in the championship game against Oregon. The top 4 I have in the semifinals, right? I've got the Buckeyes against Oregon. I did this on a live show a couple weeks ago. And I don't have the Buckeyes beating Oregon 3 straight times. So I've got Oregon beating the Buckeyes, Bulldogs beating the Longhorns, the Bulldogs beating the Ducks in the national championship game. So there it is. That is college football's peek around the corner. Preseason top 25. I'm going to be releasing a new top 25 after every single week of the season. Compare it to the coaches poll, the AP poll, and eventually the playoff committee poll, the one that matters. So let me know, did I get it all wrong once again? Did I? Probably. I probably made everybody upset. D5 Terps, Buckeyes, and Bulldogs. Natty, breaking records on viewership. John Dry, there should be no one in the top 25 until towards the end of the season. Louisville will not be an easy game for Notre Dame. They definitely were not an easy game last year. The Cardinals defeated the Fighting Irish last year. How can you say Oregon will beat Ohio State but then rank Ohio State above Oregon? No. This is where I believe they are at the beginning of the season, not where they're going to be at the end of the season. Yeah, I have to justify where I think they're ranked right now. This is not a prediction of where they're going to be at the end of the season. So it's very easy in my mind. I got the Buckeyes going to beat Oregon in the season. I got the Buckeyes beating the Ducks in the Big Ten championship game. But I don't have the Buckeyes beating the Ducks 3 times this year. So Oregon is going to get them in the semifinals. Jaguars fan 07. Alabama is going to take a big step back this year. I've got them sneaking into the playoffs. Stormy Cyclone is here. You should have had a group of 5 in there. Memphis should be where ATM, Texas A&M is. I don't have a group of 5 in there. I do. Hold on a second here. These are my G5 playoff contenders. I've got Memphis, Liberty, Tulane, Boise State, Texas State, Bobcats. In my predictions, I predicted Texas State. I think they're going to run the table in the Sun Belt. I think they're going to beat Arizona State in September 14th, I believe. So, but yeah, Memphis is a big-time contender to get to the playoffs. And I don't think it's going to take them long to get into the top 25. You're going to see G5 schools in the top 25. I don't happen to have any of them. I can't justify any of them. I don't have them ahead of Iowa State, Iowa, Texas A&M. But I understand if other people do. I get it. Ryan Willie, the evil Badger. Wisconsin will beat Minnesota by 5 touchdowns. You'll be tired of hearing on Wisconsin by halftime. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Willie. I do appreciate your generosity once again. Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, to the channel. I don't think it's going to be an easy game for the Badgers. Nope. Who is that above Boise State? Those were not... those were just 5 contenders. I did not list these 1 through 5. These are in my opinion, these are the serious 5 contenders to get that G5 playoff spot. I don't have a MAC school in there. I don't really think any of those MAC schools can run the table. But I got Texas State right here. I got Texas State being the G5 representative to get to the playoffs. Okay, let me get into hold on, just reading a report here. Trying to catch up. So let's get back to the monologue. And then we're going to get to your... We're going to get to your phone calls. You can talk about anything in college football that you desire. Your top 25. Where do I have it all wrong? Did I get anything right? Your injuries. Has there been significant injuries on your team during the start of camp? Has there been any surprise battles going on, position battles going on during your favorite team's August camp? What is the story coming out of your favorite team's camp? What is the big story? Let me know with your comments and with your super chats and with your phone calls, and I'll get to it. Moen must have been drinking something pretty heavily. Moen from Big 12 Mafia said Minnesota's going to get destroyed by Wisconsin last night. Moen is making a mistake that pretty much everybody else is making. Minnesota took a step back last year, which I predicted. I nailed the Gophers because they lost guys in the back 7. They did not have a back 7. They were playing all these true freshmen. The back 7 is completely different than it was this year versus last year. The quarterback's going to be better. The defensive line is more than legit. The offensive line is more than legit. Our running back is one of the best running backs in the country. Go ahead. Keep sleeping. Keep sleeping on the Golden Gophers. Keep sleeping. Keep sleeping. Just remember, August 29th, Thursday, watch party. Golden Gophers versus the Tar Heels. Come into the chat. Don't be afraid. Come in, watch the game. Watch the game at home. Put down your comments in real time. We'll see what happens. Okay. Yes. Getting back to the ACC drama, and then we're going to go back to your phone calls. So there's been some more documents have come out during the week that I was gone. Attorney General Moody, Florida State's Attorney Moody, got some documents. She shared them with everybody. A lot of redaction. People speculating on what it means, and that's all good. That's all cool. That's what we do. Now there's a lot of comments going back and forth, speculation about, does ESPN pick up the option? Can they pick up the option? First of all, let me start out with this. The chatter behind the curtain. The chatter behind the curtain, which could end up being wrong. But because I know what it is, I'm going to tell you what it is. The chatter behind the curtain is everybody expects that ESPN will pick up the option, will continue as is. Now, I know a lot of people are screaming at me, Greg, they can't do that. They've already given up the right to do that. That's it. If they pick up the option, that means Florida State is out of the conference. Or if they don't pick up the option, Florida State, no matter what happens, Greg, Florida State's out of the... Okay, well, you know what? ACC does not agree. ESPN does not agree. So there's going to be more litigation. This is what's going on. So I don't know what the end result's going to be on that. I don't know. There's so much that's redacted. I can understand the speculation, but I only can tell you what they believe. The people behind the curtain or in front of the microphones. They believe it's just going to continue on as is. Why ESPN hasn't announced it? I have asked that question. The only answer I've gotten back on that is these companies don't do things until they need to do them. Like, why announce you're going to pick up an option when weeks before your deadline? Businesses don't work like these big corporations. They don't work that way. They know what the deadline is. They're going to go all the way up against it, and then they're going to carry on through and say we pick up the option. If there's a big world war before that happens, then they might say, nah, we won't pick it up. All I can tell you is what people believe. They could be wrong, but it's pretty uniform. It's not just David Hale. It's not just Dennis Dodd. You know, it's basically all of them. They think it's just going to continue on. That the ACC is too good a deal for ESPN just to dump. They're going to keep going. And I know the composition clause and if they tinker with the media, you know what? There may be really good points to all that. There may be. Maybe there's something underneath that redaction that says there needs to be 2/3 votes to keep for ESPN to extend it from 2027 to 2036. Maybe there needs to be a 2/3 vote. That's an interesting part to speculate on. But from what I have been told, nobody really expects the media deal to end at 2027. The gore to run out at 2027. Now, maybe, look, remember something, guys. Judge Cooper in Leon County has the unredacted media rights agreement. He is seeing everything, a lot of it we can't see. And he's been looking at it for weeks. So if there is something there, right? If there's something there, then it's going to come out. And Florida State, if the judge rules that, look, the gore's done by 2027, look at this. Look at this media rights agreement. And then the ACC is going to appeal. But keep in mind, with all of that, Florida State, it's not about when, it's about how. So for Florida State, they are really focusing on the biggest, most complete ACC collapse as possible. So the 2027, can ESPN extend that? Did Phillips even have the right to extend it in 2021? Florida State's going to continue to battle in the courts along those lines because that could cause a huge ACC implosion. What I cannot do here at Peek Around the Corner is to say, yep, Florida State's got it in the bag. Clemson's got it in the bag. ACC's got it in the bag. I can't go there for a couple of reasons. One is there's just so much redacted, guys. There could be so many counter back and forth under those black marks, right? There could be even more stuff in there that could help Florida State that we don't even know, or it could help the ACC's argument. So I can't come out here and say the ACC collapse is imminent. I can't come up here and say Florida, there's no way that that Gore is going to run past 2027. I've got no sources telling me that. Why? Because none of them have seen the unredacted media rights agreement. None of them. It's not out there. So I can't say I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, but Florida State and Clemson are looking for the biggest victory possible. It's the how, not the when. If this has to go another year, it's going to go another year. And then back to what we started with. I do not believe, I have never believed that the Big 12 is going to be adding Washington State and Oregon State. Never believed it. Still don't believe it. Still don't believe it. Yeah, I do understand It might need 2/3 of the ACC schools to give ESPN the ability to pick up the option. And that might be part of it. Could there be 2 schools that would vote to extend? Probably. That's my take on it. We're going to open up the phone lines. Phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Cam and B thinks they get 2/3 pretty easy. If I had a guess, it would be a guess. I would say they would get it, but we'll see.
Call from
Immaculate Mr. Hot Guy is on the line. The floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. It's good to see you back.
Yeah.
It was quiet. I don't know if you realize it, but without you around, it's very quiet.
Yeah. Somebody's got to stir it back up a bit here. So
someone's got to come stir the pot.
Yeah.
So 3 things real quick because I got a cheeseburger staring at me, just waiting on me, so I had to just quick.
Yeah.
But I want to commend you first for sticking to your guns. I know it can't be easy to still say that Nebraska is going to do well. They lost their left tackle, which is a position they sorely need for that freshman.
Yeah.
As a freshman without experience in there, those guys coming after him are going to be bigger, badder, stronger, meaner. Like, he's never experienced anything like what he's about to experience.
Yeah.
And now his line side is even less strong. Like, it wasn't strong, but now it's even less.
Yeah.
So he's going to be hearing things that are coming when they're not even coming. And those windows are so quick. You get the point. I don't want to harp on it.
Yep.
But I hope the kid actually stays past the season if it goes bad, because I think that I would like to see them have someone stick around and help them out of their slump.
Yeah.
Sorry, I read someone's chat. I think I made a Nebraska fan upset. Second, about the opt-in, try not to say too much because I actually want to ask you a question.
Okay.
The big question we've got, and some of this stuff that you say is not available, actually, I believe it to be available. We got it from court records where Florida State stated these things, and the ACC lawyers did not push back on it. They did not strike it. It's on record. So it's a lot easier to come out in public and to deny something, but when you don't deny it in court, it tends to say the truth about things. And so I do tend to believe that this is an opt-in. It's not a negotiation. It's just an opt-in. And I get the argument that people say that, why opt in until the very last minute? Like, you never know what could happen. And I agree. That makes sense. But, so I want to ask you something. When it comes to the composition clause, do you believe that if, say, Florida State and Clemson leave in, like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, remember, this would be a deal from 27 to 36. So, say, like, in 28 or 29 they leave, would you think that ESPN would then have the ability to renegotiate? Or does that composition clause, because the ACC grabbed 3 new schools that it's become known ESPN was not happy about, I think that's very important. Because of those 3 being added, does ESPN not have the ability to renegotiate that deal if they opt in now, should Clemson and Florida State leave in, however many years here, 3, 4, whatever? What do you think?
I mean, again, I don't. The term composition clause is being used for so many different things. Number one,
exactly. That's not,
and number
like,
2, again, the composition clause, it's like almost all of it is redacted. So I don't want to I get people speculating. I would speculate too, but I really don't have I don't really have a strong opinion either way on it. Like,
Gotcha.
It's kind of like, again, not just the composition clause, but most of the document I couldn't see much. It was, and that's what we expected. And, you know what? And eventually this is going to come down to rulings of judges in the court case, and ACC might be looking at the same exact language, and maybe they are scared, or maybe they're not scared at all. Maybe they're saying, yeah, we know what's going to happen. ESPN's going to pick it up, and we're going to continue on. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a strong take on the composition clause.
And that's fair. I just think a lot of the media and people that you stated that are coming out and saying, oh, well, they'll just likely pick it up and go forward. I just think that's the easy thing to say, right? Like, no one's going to hold that against you, and I'm saying you in general to folks saying that, should that end up not being the case. Like, it's a safe bet. I like to talk about things as bets. Whereas if they were to come out and say, oh, they might not opt in, that's a dangerous bet, especially for a lot of those guys you named having connections to ESPN. So I don't know. I said, yep, those guys probably know more than me. Yep, I give them that. But they're also making the safe play, and there's stuff we don't know about, and I just think that if you're these guys looking at this, number one, they've got to pay attention now to what's going on with the big settlement, the NCAA settlement. That's what I think is holding everything up. But there's so much going on where it might be a bit risky. Is that settlement going to then bring out some stuff that can be used as more evidence and strengthen the argument of a Florida State and Clemson and maybe others? Like, if you opt in now, you're giving up the chance to negotiate right now. Whereas if they don't opt in, I think that they could possibly push a renegotiation with the ACC. So that's where I stand with the opt-in, is I think instead of opting in, they might use it as a chance, as an opportunity to get a renegotiated contract. So we'll see on that. Last thing before I let you go and get the next person on here, I'm just going to repeat myself. I know everyone wants answers on who's going where and what, and I'm sure you get a ton on that.
Yeah.
But I can't remember who it was, but even someone in the major media mentioned, dominoes. And I know I've talked about that and you've talked about it. It's still my opinion, the first big domino, before any of these people are actually willing to do something, make a big, permanent move or change, it's that NCAA settlement. That has to be figured out. There's still questions on, the Fontenot case, because this has been dragged out. We just found out that the plaintiffs in the, hope I don't say this thing, Cho versus Brown case, they're now weighing in on this. And that led me to have a conversation with a couple of guys on X that have been following that, saying, why is this taking so long? And they don't have an answer. I'm like, I suggested to them, and, they didn't really answer as to whether the House settlement situation is holding it up. But it's such a big deal, because that's going to set up maybe other cases. Does congressional involvement get involved? If you're a judge, one of the last things that they want is to have one of their cases appealed. Yeah. And you got to look at the situation and say, there's a good chance the whole landscape could be changed by this. So you've got that case being held up. You've got the NLRB cases being held up. If you're a president at a school, why would you want to do anything right now? Like, honestly, it's not to say, anything bad about Florida State or anyone else about their obvious value.
Yeah.
But you've got so much on the, Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, and that was one of many reasons why on June 15th we said Pettini and Sankey left the Holy Smokes Theater. They would rather not do anything this year, just figure out many things need to be figured out. They need to see how their schedule works, the governance,
Oh yeah,
all of it.
There's some table right.
And I think Florida State Clemson knows that. Again, it's not so much when, it's how this happens. So I think the August 15th date is absolutely meaningless.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything. It doesn't help Florida State and Clemson at all. It's not. I'll take the L. I've been saying it for months. I'll take the L. I'll say I'm wrong. But I think that August 15th is going to come and go. And should not raise any alarm for Clemson fans and Florida State fans. I know it will. Some of them will get upset, but I think it's meaningless. Because this is not about how quick Florida State and Clemson says, hey, we're out of the conference. We're filing our notice of withdrawal. Their number one goal is to have the biggest implosion possible in the ACC. So,
yeah, and it's not to say that date didn't mean something at some point. Like, some folks weren't looking at that as a target. But I think that this settlement situation has dragged on. You're even seeing, like, the plaintiffs of the case have put in a motion to have the hearing move forward. Everyone realizes, like, the timing of this is very important. So we'll see. I just kind of want to bring that up for folks who are like, well, why is nothing happening? The same reason that we've had this whole time is if you're the fourth domino in a row, you have to watch and wait for the first, second, and third dominoes to go down, and they have not. So.
Any big news out of Iowa's August camp thus far?
Have not lost any of our starting linemen. The defensive backfield is actually looking pretty good. That was kind of the worry, is like, replacing, and I think that it could possibly prove out to be the very best defense in the country, but I'm biased.
No way. But you could be right. You could be right. So.
And part of why I think that is because I do think the offense will be mediocre. It's not going to be amazing, but I do think it'll take some of the pressure off them. When you look last year at how many plays they played, that was, it's part of the stats. It's not a stat people really look at closely. Yeah. But when the number of plays your defense plays is, 100, 150 more than all the others that they're being compared to, it's a big deal. And so I think that, this defense is extremely experienced, old. So I just think that it's going to be tough. If their offense plays just reasonable, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, my number one point of emphasis when it comes to the Hawkeyes, when I watch them early in the season, when I watch them against the Cyclones, I'm going to be watching the Iowa Hawkeyes offensive line.
Yep.
Because I rewatched a lot of that Iowa versus Minnesota game.
Mm-hmm.
The Gophers' defensive line just completely annihilated the Hawkeyes' O-line last year. I mean, it was brutal. And I know Iowa couldn't stand up to a lot of teams last year. And Iowa's always had a good offensive line. And they've struggled the last couple of years. So if they can get that offensive line figured out this year with Cade as their quarterback, Hawkeyes are going to make a big jump. So we'll see.
That's a big deal, and that's a big part of it. As a player, you need to have some faith. You need to have some belief that your team can get it done. And when Cade went down, and after just a couple games, it just became pretty obvious that quarterback couldn't get it done. And for whatever reason, I don't know why they didn't give the third-tier guy a shot. But I just feel like they they kind of lost their heart, which is, there's no excuse for it, but that's just the reality when you're out there, man. That's high competition. So I'm hoping Cade's beefed up this year because that guy is not mobile. He is not going to be able to dodge a hit. So hopefully with a little more beef on him, he's going to be able to take it a little bit better. So hopefully he can stay in the game longer this season than he did last season. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, man.
That's all. Talk to you later, buddy.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the call, sir.
Call from
Nitwit.
Penn State Nitwit. How you doing, sir? Floor's yours.
I'm doing great, man. We got some excitement here in Happy Valley. I think last year we were kind of overrated with the young talent we have, but now that we've got some practices and we're starting to see who's here, and we got Singleton. I actually think when you look at this roster, this is the best talent that Franklin's had on his roster, and it's this year or not. I think last year they were a little young, especially with Aller, but the variables are there. If they could just put it together with the new coordinators, Anthony, what's his name, Kolonecki from Kansas.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. So
I hear you guys got a true freshman running back who's pushing Singleton and Allen.
Yes. And we've got great corners. We've got Colby King's probably one of the best strong safeties in the country.
And you got Carter. You got Mr. Carter.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be a high. They're going to line him up everywhere. He might be over center. I mean that's what I've heard. So you won't know where his at.
Yes.
So
you'll see number 11 out there everywhere.
Yeah, they're going to use him like the Cowboys use the former linebacker Micah Parsons. So
the only reason I'm not being sucked in to the Nittany Lion vortex, the only reason that I have not fallen in love with the Nittany Lions last year is because, as you know, Nitwit, I fell in love with the Nittany Lions last year. And they broke my heart. They left me at the altar. They didn't get the job done. So even though I'm a schmuck, I cannot get my heart broken by the same team 2 years in a row. That's the only. Now I do have them going to the playoffs, but I don't have them winning the Big Ten championship.
I don't know. Like I said, when you look at the names on this roster, and like you said, Singleton, we have a freshman running back pushing for time. There's going to be talent all over the field.
Yeah.
If Drew Aller can put it together, and he could be maybe a top 8, top 7 quarterback with Kolonecki's offense, you know what he did at Kansas. I mean, he's seen people open. I think if we can run the ball, that's going to take some pressure off of Aller, and I think you got Julian Fleming in the fold, a former 5-star wide receiver, former Ohio State wide receiver, tight end room, one of the tops in the country. So I don't know, when you're going to battle and you name those names, there's a lot of talent there.
Yes.
The only thing that scares me is I was paying attention to all these games, and I'm like, oh, no. November 23rd, Penn State at Minnesota?
Yes! Let's go!
Oh, my God.
Let's go!
Oh, my God. You know Penn State hates Minnesota.
Yes.
You guys upset our drink all the time. So that definitely has to be a watch party.
Anxiety, baby. I'm playing the
know.
music. I'm playing the music. Penn State
going
and
down
Minnesota.
I got nightmares in
I
my
was going
head.
down
I
through the list
fear
of the games, and I'm like,
thoughts.
yeah, good chance. Oh, Penn State at Minnesota. No.
Yeah.
I still remember in '99 when Minnesota upset LeVar Harrington and Penn State.
Yeah,
Still
it was
can't get over that game.
23-21. Number 2 Penn State in the country, playing at Happy Valley. 23-21. The field goal kicker for the Gophers went to my high school.
Awesome, man.
I can't remember the kicker's name, though, for the life of me. And Arrington, I think it was Arrington, got up so high in that field goal kick, I thought for sure he was going to block it. I don't know how the kick got up and over that line. Yeah, and the Gophers won. Yeah, well, hopefully we can give you guys a game. I know last year, by the second game of the season, we already had all these injuries and we were pretty much done. So I'm hoping we can stay healthy this year. Knock on wood. So
it's always a good
game
game It's always a good game when you play Penn State. I mean, that's the whole thing, man.
The last time Penn State played Minnesota, you guys whooped up on us. And the game that we were both undefeated, 2019, when we both went into the game 8-0. You remember that game?
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Minnesota ended up winning. But if you watch like with maybe 5 minutes to go in the second quarter, all the way through the second half, if you rewatch that game, Penn State dominated the Gophers at both lines of scrimmage. The Gophers got Gophers were hanging on at the very end of that game. They were able to get an interception, but Penn State turned it on to a couple of gears higher than Minnesota could not match them. But it's just Penn State got so far behind, but even that game, Penn State, you could see the class difference. Penn State was just kicking the crap out of Minnesota in third and fourth quarter, but Minnesota is very fortunate to hang on. So, yeah, I mean, Gophers are going to have to get fortunate to pull that one out, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Greg, I also wanted to call in and talk about this Michigan thing.
Yeah.
I think you and I remember we've had tons of conversations about this. So if I ask you a question, who do you think leaked this memo?
Boy, that's a great question. Are they just trying to get out of the contest? Did the NCAA leak it? I mean, are they trying to get out in front of this Netflix or Comic Stallions is going to tell his side of the story? Is that what? I don't know. Great question.
I don't know. Or it could be Michigan that wants to get it out there because the possible sanctions are coming, and they could say, "Oh, here's the NCAA trying to come after us again." So it's definitely like things don't get leaked unless somebody wants things to be heard, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it is. But I think the NCAA is very frustrated with Michigan, and I think in their conversations with the Big Ten commissioner and how that went down, I would not be out there saying, like, I watched Colin Cowherd and all this kind of stuff. All these people yesterday were saying it's no big deal. Paul Feinbaum, they're going to get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
I doubt that. I mean, that's just my feeling. I mean, when you have clips, I think there was one. I think Buckeye Scoop had a clip where they moved the safeties up, knew it was a run play.
Yeah, I saw that.
You and I talked about this. This is player safety.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? I mean, if you're playing safety or linebacker and you know it's going to be a run play, oh my God, you could hurt somebody. So definitely, and from my feeling on it is, you have a lot of teams. You had a lot of teams upset. You had the Big Ten commissioner put in an odd place. The NCAA, you had Michigan bucking all this, threatening lawyers, blah, blah, blah. And basically from what was reported in the leaked memo, a lot of things were confirmed. More deleted 23 text messages or whatever, 53 or whatever. You had 5 level 1 violations, and then there's coaches, and then I think there was 3 or 4 level 2 violations from coaches. I mean, this is serious stuff. I don't understand why people are just throwing this out there like, oh, this is just no big deal. I think the TCU coach, here's how it impacts the game. If you believe, who is the TCU coach? I forget. Oh, what's his name? I actually believe that somebody had him catch on to this. If you remember in that game, some of the interceptions and the deep passes, like, I actually think TCU, when they played Michigan, something tipped them off about this, and they were sending in false signals to put Michigan in a wrong defense. I've heard that out there. I mean, I wouldn't put I mean, that's how it could impact the integrity of the game. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think I think you did think it was a big deal at the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I talked about it. I reported the story pretty aggressively. Yeah, and I agreed with what Phillips did, and but I do think Michigan is the rightful national champion. So I get people upset with me on one side of the fence, but I do believe Michigan cheated, no question about it, and they got caught. And there's going to be some consequences. So then I had Michigan fans upset with me on the other side of the fence. I got none here saying to Expedition Greg, no need to obsess over, they're not going to drop any hammer. Michigan won the national fair and square. You're just going to have to deal with it. Yeah, Michigan won the national championship. It's not going to be vacated. But there is going to be some level of accountability. I don't know what that's going to be, Nitwit. I don't think it's going to be just they're going to lose scholarships, right? I mean, my goodness.
Right.
Everybody's gaining the ability to have more scholarships. So what are you going to do? Eliminate Michigan from 5 scholarships? So what? They're still going to have more scholarships next year than they had this year, even if you reduce their scholarships. I think it's going to have to do something to do with postseason ban. I think they're going to get a year or something. There's going to be some accountability.
If they come down with a year ban, with a year ban and maybe a 2 or 3 game suspension for more, would you think that's fair?
What was that?
If they come out with a year postseason ban and a 3 game suspension for more.
Yeah. I think that might do it. Yep.
Okay. All right, but I'm just saying, like, I think the national reporters out there saying that nothing's going to happen. I just don't think the NCAA is not going to do nothing. So, but hey, Greg, you know what? I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
November 23rd. Hopefully, Penn State will come in there undefeated after upsetting Ohio State at home. And maybe the Gophers will give us a game.
You got it.
Take care, buddy.
Appreciate it. Great call. Mommy PDX, so much stroking the egos of Florida State fans. Greg is too sensitive to their criticisms.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas,
to
the
accept,
floor
press 1.
is
To
yours.
send a voicemail, press
Let it
2.
rip, sir. Whoops, sorry. Are you there, Ryan?
Yes, I am, Greg. How are you, friend?
Good. The floor is yours, sir. Let it rip.
All I have to say is this one thing. When people don't like what they hear, they often create conspiracy theories, Greg, to explain why things didn't go their way.
Yeah.
And that's where our society is, because nobody wants to take responsibility. Nobody wants to take their L's and admit when they're wrong.
Yeah.
So they've always got to blame it on somebody and create some fictitious BS to explain away why things didn't work out the way they did.
Yeah.
I would, as far as what's going on, I think, like I said, Clemson and FSU are on a separate track with the legal stuff to break their way out, and they're going to listen to everything out there. They're going to listen to all opportunities and options out there. Now, speaking of options with ESPN, we don't know if it's an opt-in or an opt-out, but it's definitely an option. And when it comes right down to it, I have just one question to ask everybody about the reality of whether or not ESPN is going to exercise that option. And I want ACC fans to stop and honestly look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves this question. Now, we know Chris Lowe, who's Jamie's friend, the great Jamie Thornton, he said that the SEC wants UNC and UVA. That's documented on public record fact now, okay? And, put on the side that, people think I'm nuts, but, I've called it before, ESPN wants that Duke-UNC pair as well. But I'm just going to ask a question. If Sankey wants UNC, and if ESPN wants UNC and Duke in that combo, and if we know that ESPN or the ACC is going to be subservient to the SEC's needs, the question needs to be asked, do you think Greg Sankey is really going to wait till 2036 to get UNC? 12 years is a long time, Greg, and during that time, presidency leadership can change, board of trustees leadership can change. For all we know, 12 years from now, UNC's board and president could be completely pro-Big Ten. And does Greg Sankey want to take that risk? That's the question you ought to ask yourself, ACC fans. That's the question you need to think about, because when Greg Sankey goes shopping for cigarettes and Tobacco Road for his Marlboros, he's coming straight for UNC. So keep in mind that, and I think that's the one thing I can't get past. You put everything in line, Greg, and that's the one thing I keep coming back in, is I don't think the SEC or ESPN wants to risk 12 years of possible change with UNC. If they want UNC in the SEC, that option is not being picked up. That's all I have to say, Greg. Take care.
You got it. Beautiful. Great call. Great call by Ryan Thomas. He's putting it out there. If 12 years is a long time, and if ESPN and Sankey doesn't want North Carolina to be out of his grasp for the next 12 years, then ESPN is not picking up that option, according to Mr. Ryan Thomas.
Call from
Big Ten brother.
Big Ten brother, thanks for calling again, sir. The floor is yours.
Hey, buddy. Hey, a couple of things. I won't take too much time here. I like that last call, what he was saying with North Carolina. And you could take it even further. that they're not going to wait 12 years for UNC to get out. If they wait 12 years for North Carolina to get out, they're going to have a tough time beating Yale and Harvard because they're going to be so far behind. Can you imagine 12 years of not collecting the money the SEC and the Big Ten are getting? Well, you think they're going to be able to compete? There's no way.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me get to Michigan real quick, and I'll let you go.
Yeah.
They're not gonna punish Michigan, and I'll tell you why. They're not. The NCAA doesn't have that leverage anymore. And when they went in and investigated Tennessee about that quarterback getting $8 million, and oh boy, Tennessee's finished, they're gonna do. Nothing came of it. Nothing. They just walked away from it. The thing that Michigan, why they won't punish Michigan, is because they took pictures, okay? They took pictures over here, they took pictures over there. If they're going to punish Michigan, it's because of stupidity. When you watch film, game film, like on Mondays after the game, you watch game film, you have a sideline view and you have an end zone view. The end zone view is so you can pick up the DBs and the receivers. The sideline view is more for the linemen and the linebackers. Well, you see everything you want to see. You see the coaches sending in signals. You see everything that's going on. You know which coaches are sending in signals before the game even begins, but you still have to pick out which guy's the live guy. Who's the real guy? They got two guys sending in signals. Who's the real guy sending in signals? And usually it's like the backup quarterback and he's got a baseball hat on. He's also sending in signals. Well, which one's the real signals? And then what we did, we changed them at halftime. So if they did pick up something in the first half, we flip-flopped the live guy sending in signals, so then it would screw them up in the second half. So my point is this. If you want to punish Michigan, punish them and ask them, why did you bother even doing that? What advantage was there? You had everything you wanted on film. Go ahead.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
Yep.
You get a lot more. First of all, what you get in film is you don't get the whole sideline of the film. You don't get all that information from the films that you are allowed to have during the week before you play your opponent. There is a reason why in-person scouting, filming your opponents is illegal. It is prohibited.
It's not. It's that you get it from the end zone. We can see the coach because it's such a wide. Go ahead.
We've already. I respect your opinion, but there is a reason you get when you're hiring. First of all, the information that was leaked. This happened 58 different events. 58 different games. You're sending people to other people's stadiums. You are videotaping their sideline. And then you have another person videoing what's going on during the game. So then you just got to link those two things up. Way more sophisticated than just taking a game film and trying to break it down. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. That is a complete violation of true competition on the field.
Oh, yes, I agree that they should be punished, but I think they should be punished for stupidity because you can get that information. You get that information from the booth. That's why they're wearing headphones. You could see directly across to the other sideline, and you have a coach up in the booth, and he talks to the. Go ahead.
Okay, but Big Brother, Big Ten brother, those are in-game, game adjustments. Everybody does that. Everybody's trying to steal each other's signals in game adjustments. This was Connor Stallions having placards made of all the hand signals that they were able to make these placards because of all this sideline taping of their opponents in previous games in certain situations. That's why Connor Stallions, he could say to this, it was so much more sophisticated than just going through a weekly tape that you get for your future opponents your all 22 videos don't show what Connor Stalions videotaped. That's why he did it. That's why they did it. That's why they covered it up. That's why supposedly, allegedly, Sharon Moore deleted all those text messages.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I understand that. I didn't know he made placards. I didn't know that it was that sophisticated I thought he was just taking pictures, put it on his phone. Would they look at their phone and say, okay, if it was a run play, what arm would he put up on a run play? Well, you get that. You can see that in the film. You can see that from the booth. I didn't understand. I didn't know that they were connecting and putting signs together and placards and holding them up to the defense, and the defense would look over and they would, I didn't know it was that.
It wasn't the placards to show the defense. It was the placard that Connor Stalions had in his hand. He would check. So the first play of the game, there's opponents. They do a hand signal offense. Connor Stalions looks at the placard, standing next to defensive coordinator and says, or offensive coordinator, whatever, and says this is what the team's going to do. And it was much more sophisticated, but.
Boy, that is interesting, because I'm thinking to myself, boy, what happens if they run a no huddle offense? Does that? How do you run that and send in, like, here's what if they're going to run a no huddle offense? You know what's funny though is I heard of the guy interviewed that obviously by that time it was out that they were doing it. Rutgers put it out there, Ohio State put it out there, Michigan State put it out there. The TCU caught wind of it. And that's why Michigan's like, boy, they look lousy tonight. That they seen what the stuff that the other teams, they knew what they were doing. Like, they were in communication with Rutgers, and they went back and changed all their signals, and even went as far as doing the opposite signals. So Michigan would think, okay, it's going to be a pass on this play. Then they'd run a draw. And that's why if you're thinking, how can Michigan look this terrible against TCU? Because they were thinking or trying to get the signals from TCU, but TCU had already changed everything and even put false signals in there.
Yeah, they were tipped off. Yep.
Here's one more interesting point about that. And Michigan was so upset that people thought, like, oh, you guys wouldn't be any good if this was happening. Then at halftime, they had told Moore, because Harbaugh wasn't allowed to go to that game, Moore had told the offensive line, you know what? Let's just show them that we could do it on the field. They ran the ball 28 times in a row against Penn State.
Yeah.
And they told the offensive linemen, when you get to the line of scrimmage, just go ahead and tell the defense that we're running the football. And they still drove and scored. And they asked, and that came out because they asked a wide receiver on Michigan, were you upset that they didn't even throw the ball the second half? And they said, no, if you knew what we knew, we're pretty excited about what happened. And then that came out later. And that to me, as a former player, I don't know, I'd have to sit there and talk to Stallion and find out, what did you do different than what they could do in the booth and what they could do with film? If he could connect that and say, here's the connection that I had that put this whole thing together, then I could decide, like, wow, that is an advantage. Boy, oh boy, I didn't even know you could do that. Must have took you 4 days every week to put that thing together where you knew exactly when a run was going to happen, because you know a lot from the formations. The formations are going to tell you from the video that you watched all week. I know if they're, I know just by how the backs line up, here's what they like to do. And that's what they're going to do 80% of the time. So I want to know, what did you know that the formations and the film didn't tell you? That's what I'd love to find out. I hope they come out and say, or he comes out and says, here was the advantage that I had that you don't get from the booth, you don't get from the video, you don't get from the game film, and you don't get from the formations. Here's the final piece to that puzzle that I had that made all the world in a difference, how we went from going 9-4 every year to being the national championships. I would love to see the piece of that puzzle. And that's it, Greg.
Yep. You got it, buddy. Appreciate the call,
all right, bye-bye.
sir.
Bye-bye.
Call again. The architect, wait, Greg, in-person scouting is illegal because of the costs incurred by smaller schools with smaller budgets. This is why the rule exists, correct? This is why the rule exists, correct? Yeah, but I don't even care why the rule's in place. The rule's in place. Yes, that was the reason why not everybody can do in-person scouting, which means that in-person scouting gives a team an advantage over another team. If one team is doing it and another team is not doing it, it was a big enough advantage where they said you can't do it. So to me, it doesn't matter how the rule came about. It's a rule. And as far as we know, as of today, Tuesday, August 6th, Michigan is the only school that was doing this. If there was other schools, they should not have done it. But so far, Michigan was the only school that got caught. So to me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care how it's the rule. And again, the NHL has rules. Major League Baseball, there are rules. There are going to be rules in college football. Ladies and gentlemen, there are going to be rules in this new governance. And some schools are going to break them, and they're going to get hand slapped. There's going to be punishment, and then people are going to throw up their arms and say, well, everybody does it. Well, okay, until they get caught. If they get caught, they're going to get punished. I don't know. And then you got this County Stallions at the sidelines of Central Michigan. Come on, man. That is so. Forget about the rule. Of course, it's against the rule. It's so unbelievably unethical. I mean, think about it. Think about the depravity you have to be. Well, I'm going to go on Central Michigan sideline. I'm going to be in a disguise. I'm going to videotape Michigan State. I'm going to gain of course this is illegal, but I love Michigan and everybody does it. Then he gets caught and all these excuses and Central Michigan. We're going to get to the bottom of this. It's been a year. You haven't said squat. Michigan State should not line up to play Central Michigan anymore. Really, they shouldn't. Central Michigan, we don't know who this guy was. Come on. It got to the point where, come on. Michigan got caught. Now, but I also believe they're the national champions and they should be the national champions, and so I get anger from the other side, which is fine. That's what I'm here. But thank goodness they got caught. I mean, can you imagine Michigan continuing to do this year after? Of course it gives them an advantage. Of course it does. Of course it does. Yeah, I was not expecting to miss anything. Man, there was a lot of stuff out there though saying, "Oh, everything's about to happen." I mean, I don't know. We knew that the documents that the Attorney General Moody was going to get was going to be heavily redacted. They were. There was some interesting speculation. That speculation is going to continue. It's real interesting. But it's not like the ACC is going to... Look, guys, the ACC is not going to just roll over and die for Florida State, Clemson, and for a few other of those ACC schools that could go to the Big Ten and the SEC once the ACC implodes. The ACC is not going to roll over and die. The only way the ACC settles, if Florida State and Clemson settles at a very high number, which will keep the ACC intact. Florida State and Clemson can leave, but ACC stays intact. But Florida State and Clemson knows if they write a big number check to ACC, that they're going to be the only two free agents out there. That is going to hurt the chances of Florida State and Clemson being able to get to the SEC and the Big Ten, because they're not their number one targets. They're not. And everybody knows that, except for large part of their fan bases, which is fine. I completely understand that. So you've got the ACC, who've got no motivation to settle. None. Unless they receive a very high, massive check from Florida State and Clemson. If Clemson, because, look, if you believe the ACC's in a bad spot when it comes to the courts, when it comes to whatever's redacted, okay, let's say that's true. Then the ACC is going to collapse. Eventually, it's going to collapse. But if the ACC agrees to a low money amount for Florida State and Clemson right now, they're going to collapse anyways, and it's going to be quicker. So the ACC has no motivation to settle unless it's for a very high number. Florida State and Clemson, what's their motivation at settling for a very high number? If they do so, the chances of them being able to get to the Big Ten and the SEC is much, 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 much lower than currently what most people believe on X and on the message boards. Because the information that Jason Shear, Brett McMurphy, Pete Thamel, the fat guy from Minnesota, our information, I believe, have all the reasons in the world to believe is extremely accurate. And it's not part of a misinformation campaign. So I think this is going to go on for a while because the ACC has no motivation to settle unless it's for a very high number. And Florida State and Clemson have received enough information back to know that they need a big ACC implosion to get where they want to go. Our Florida State money perch, he believes that Florida State and Clemson will not keep doing this day in, day out, day in. They're going to write the big check and they're going to go to the Big 12 for the next 4, 5, 6 years. That's what our money perch says. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? But I don't see a settlement anytime soon. Unless Florida State and Clemson are willing to write the big check and say, okay, Big 12, we'll jump on in. I know people in the Big 12 believe that's what's going to happen. The Florida State money perch believes that's going to happen. Florida State and Clemson have had third-party talks with the Big 12. It is a serious option. But they're going to hope for a big ACC implosion to help them grease the skids, for their skids to get greased so they can join the SEC or the Big Ten. Let me go through once again the PATC top 25 real quick, preseason top 25. Iowa State 25, Iowa 24, Arizona 23, Texas A&M 22, USC 21, Wolfpack 20, the Jayhawks 19, the Hurricanes 18, the Tigers 17, the Sooners 16, Tennessee 15, Kansas State 14, Utah Utes 13, LSU 12, Missouri 11, the top 10. College football's peek around the corner preseason top 25 starts with the Seminoles 10, The Wolverines, number 9. The Nittany Lions, 8. The Fighting Irish, 7. Ole Miss, 5. Texas, 4. Oregon, 3. Ohio State, 2. Georgia, 1. Alabama's number 6, by the way. There it is. There is the CFB's PATC preseason top 25. Let me know how wrong I got it. But Greg the Gold. Greg the Gold, baby. Georgia. Gonna win it all. The Bulldogs. Greg the Gold. Yes, tomorrow. Tomorrow, Wednesday, August 9th. August 7th. I believe we're going to be able to make our first selection against the spread, at least one selection. I'm looking at you, Texas A&M. I'm looking at you against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think we're going to have to drop in. I think we're going to have to take A&M before that line creeps up a little bit more as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish lost their starting left tackle. So I think tomorrow we're going to be making our first selection against the spread. Maybe another one. When are we going to do Florida State, Georgia Tech? I got to break down the tape just a little bit more. I believe that Georgia Tech's running back, Jamal Haynes, is going to be, I think he might have a pretty big game. I think Georgia Tech's going to pile up some yards. Can the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech do a backdoor cover on the Florida State Seminoles? Could I be making that selection tomorrow? Possibly. Maybe. We shall see. I'm going to be pulling the trigger. I'm going to be pulling the trigger at some point. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. We're going to be closing the show down. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 22 minutes. It is good to be back home. We went to the land, to paradise, to Hawaii, to Honolulu, Waikiki Beach. I set off a couple tsunami alerts as I entered into the ocean, but everybody's okay. Everybody's okay. I made sure when I went into the ocean, the fat guy from Minnesota went into when it was low tide, except for one time. One time, me and the wife, the little general, we went at high tide. But most of the time we went at low tide. I did not want to cause too much water displacement. I did not want to cause a tsunami alert all across the Pacific Rim of this planet Earth. So I was careful. I was very careful. But thank goodness we made it back home safely. I've had no sleep for a couple days. It's 6:10 Central Time, 7:10 Eastern Time. And after we turn off the studio lights, I'm going straight to bed. But tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to be doing some fun stuff here at college football. Keep your head on a swivel. I want to thank everybody for their generosity, for the comments, for the great comments, and for the phone calls. I hope you had some fun. I hope we gave you some good information. And no, there is no misinformation campaign going on, being done by the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the chatter behind the curtain, and the fat guy from Minnesota. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's peek around the corner to all of you. Please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.